Welcome everyone to another DRZ off-road video. Today we are doing an in-depth review of my bike. Here it is, the DRZ 400. If you caught the earlier video of my bike, it was just a quick look, whereas this video is going to be a more in-depth review. So let's go ahead and take a closer look here. This bike is my 2018 Suzuki DRZ 400S. They made two different versions of this bike. The 400S, which is what I got and what you're looking at here. The other version that they made is the 400 SM, which is the Supermoto version. They also have a little bit of differences here and there, but between those bikes we would go over them in another video. Hint hint. So stay tuned. If you haven't already noticed, my brother has the same bike, but his is a Supermoto version, so we will be going over that in a separate video. Okay, so let's take you a little bit closer here and go over the specs of the bike in detail and what I've done to the bike. The 2018 Suzuki DRZ S is a single cylinder, so it only has one spark plug, but this bike can put out 39 horsepower stock without any mods, which is plenty for on the road and more than enough for off-road. On this bike I can reach speeds up to 100, but it's not necessary, and I often never go past 70. Off-road, on the other hand, it's got more than enough power. I pretty much never go past third gear, as I can do over 40 in third. So they call it a DRZ 400, but it is actually a 398 engine. It has a bore and stroke of 90 by 62.2, and it is liquid cooled. So let's take a look at that real quick. Okay, so here we have the radiator here, and it's got some fins right here. It's on the right side. This is a split radiator. Here's the other side. You got the filler cap right here, more fins, and the other side here. So with this being liquid cooled, it stays much colder than if it was to be air cooled. Now, as far as these fins go, they act on two different things. One, they obviously just let more air get into the radiator, but two, if you know how a radiator is made, you can see it's these really thin pieces of aluminum usually, and they're very brittle and weak. So these fins will help deflect any rocks or any other road debris. All right, so let's see. Let's take a look at back to the engine. It has an 11.3 by 1 compression ratio, and it is a dual overhead cam, which is nice. So let's take a look down here. All right, here's the engine here. Get all up and comfortable in here. Let's take the side cover off real quick, and we'll go over a few things here. Oh, looks like one of the pins fell out there. That's okay. It is carbureted, and it is a 36mm Mikuni BSR carb, and that is right there. Here's the carburetor, and this is the choke. This choke is a 3% choke. You get off, half choke, full choke. So basically the starting procedure is you pull the choke all the way out to full choke, start the bike up, and you can usually have it run for about 30 seconds. Then I usually push it back to half choke for about 10 to 15 seconds depending on the bike. Usually when it starts popping, then I will push it all the way in. Okay. So you could upgrade this carb. It's pretty decent, but upon upgrading the carb, you'll need to do a few additional things to the bike, which I will go over in the other video. So screw it, I'm just gonna tell you, we'll be reviewing my brother's bike, which is also the DRZ, but in addition to it being Supermoto, he also upgraded and modded it and made it into a nice Supermoto with different tires, rims, all that good stuff. If you haven't already seen it in the other videos, I'm sure you've probably noticed that it's different than this one. since we're talking about the carb, let's talk about fuel tank capacity. Here it is right here. Nice metal fuel tank, which is nice. I don't like these plastic ones. I've always liked the metal ones. They just look nicer and they're cleaner and they're easier to clean off and stuff like that. So the fuel tank can hold 2.6 gallons total, which isn't a lot if you're riding on the road, but it is way more than enough for off-road. I get about 130 miles for a full tank with reserve on regular gas. Without switching to reserve, I can get about 90 miles or so. So I also have a rack installed here. So if you haven't seen the other video, I have a rack here. This rack has helped so much, and it also can hold an extra fuel can on here if I needed to. And actually, it has a spot specifically for a roto packs, which I believe I have to take the tool bag off, but it actually has a specific spot. It has a specific cutout for the roto packs. So that's really nice. I think this comes in different colors, silver, black, blue, and I think it was around 50 bucks. So pretty good. I also got these rocks straps. Are okay. These things are really tough. I mean, they can get really tight. Like, that's pretty tight right here. If I do this, I'm actually straining to hold that open like that. And they are fully adjustable. They have some extra line here, so you can pull them out and make them adjustable. You know, put a second helmet there or whatever you may need, some pizza or something. Okay, next, let's talk about well, the rack also helps me with the tool bag. I forgot to talk about that. This tool bag actually is standard with the DRZ. It comes with it. It comes with a decent set of tools. It's not like going to be great or anything, but it could pretty much tighten up and loosen up just about anything on here. So if something happens on the road, it is very nice to have. I also wanted to keep this on here because I can store, like, you know, my insurance information, wallet if I need to, or cell phone or something like that. So that's pretty good. Moving on, let's get back down to the Airbox. So this is the Airbox. It does have a removable filter. However, I've had this for a little over 2 years now, and I've yet to maintenance it or anything like that. These, you don't really usually have to replace them. You can just pull them off just by unscrewing this little nut here, and then these come off, and then yeah, it's a little greasy, but they are washable. And then you can spray a little bit of so that you usually have this like sticky lube so that nothing can pass through there and it stays a little bit longer. Okay, so next to that back here is actually the battery. And if you already noticed, I have, you know, a nice little wiring harness. But let's move on up here. I have a wire that connects to here, which is the cell phone holder, and also combination USB charger here, so you can charge anything that is USB. So that's that. The battery is kind of a bitch to get to. You have a bolt there and a bolt there, but they're two different bolts. One because of the rack here, and the other one is the standard bolt. So if you need to replace it, it's not too bad. Like I said, it's only two, but the seat has to come off here, and it's not fun, but it could be done on the road if you had to. So let's move on to something else. Let's see, transmission. Yes, let's talk about the transmission. Transmission is a 5-speed gearbox, so right here you go 1 down, 4 up, and this is the clutch here. Clutch, as you can see, moves that down there. Okay, so that's the only thing I could really say about there is that it could use a 6th gear, but I'm guessing Suzuki's thought is if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as these bikes haven't really changed much in the years. It is driven by an RK chain. Here's the chain right here. Mine probably a little bit dirty. I've been off-road with it recently, but I usually put chain lube on it like twice a month, give or take. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on, you know, if I leave it out in the rain or how much off-road riding and it gets dirty and stuff like that. So these engines are pretty much bulletproof, guys. So if you take care of it and keep up with the maintenance and everything, it's gonna last forever. The great thing about this bike is that it only needs an oil change every 3,000 miles. You heard me right, 3,000 miles. That makes it more in line with a car than a dirt bike, because dirt bikes are in hours, not miles, and the usual dirt bikes are between 10 and 70 hours. So that's not that great. Granted, you're not gonna be doing, you know, lots of riding on the road like this thing, but 3,000 miles is quite a bit. So I've only done 2 oil changes in 2 years with this bike. So that's pretty awesome. That's, you know, something to consider there. So let's move on to something a little more interesting, and that's the suspension. So both front and back are fully adjustable, and I have indeed adjusted this bike to my liking. The front suspension uses cartridge style forks, and you can adjust them both on the top and the bottom. So here is the adjustment for the bottom. Let's get you all up in here. So you got soft and hard compression, and then that's the bottom. So it's just a little click down there, and then the top you had it up here, same thing as well, soft and hard for the rebound. So that's the front. The rear is a little bit different. The rear doesn't use the cartridge style forks. The the rear is linkage assisted, and you can adjust a spring preload, which is here. So this little guy right here is probably hard to see if we can't get up close and personal. So usually you take this thing off with these couple screws here, and you can adjust that. You could probably adjust it without it, but it's, for me, it took me about an hour to fully adjust this bike. I rode it on the same stretch of road, and I did acceleration, braking. They had a couple jumps and some like little hills. So it took me about an hour, but I have it set up to my adjustment. After I adjusted it to my liking on the road, I went off-road, and it was pretty much perfect. I didn't need to do any other adjustment. So before we move on past the suspension, let's talk about the tires and the brakes. So this is a Shinko 705 Trail Master. So here's Shinko 705 Trail Master, and these are 90/90/21s for the front, and they are 120/80/18s for the rear. So this, I guess you could say, this review is subjective, or, you know, it depends on person to person. One, you got different tires for different bikes. You know, the width of the tire, the height of the tire, the weight of the rider. So this is based on me personally, what I have tested on this particular bike and how I have it set up. So with that in mind, the brakes are Nissan brakes. They are both front and rear disc brakes. So here we go, some Nissan. They got the rotor right there, caliper, and the brake pads are in there. Same thing with the rear, just a little bit smaller than the front, obviously. So there we go. So that's the brakes. So I will, in a separate clip probably after this review, we're going to be doing some 0 to 60 acceleration and some 60 to 0 braking, so you'll see how good these brakes are. I wouldn't touch them at all, like, other than replacing them, which I replaced them one time and that's it. I wouldn't touch these brakes. They are great brakes. Suzuki did a really good job, and Nissan so did they. They are just phenomenal brakes. This front, like, you'll see in the next clip, the front will dive down if you jam one of those front brakes. Now they don't have ABS, so the back will lock up if you jam on it too hard. So let's move on to something else here. Let's see, what do we got next? Oh yeah, the stock tires on this bike. I don't think I can say anything nice about them. They're pretty crappy tires. To be honest, they're really not good tires. I think they lasted like maybe 4,000 miles, if that. I mean, they're not good on road, and they're not good off road. These Shinkos are, they call them 50/50, but I feel like they're more like a little more geared to off-road. They're probably more like 60/40 in my opinion, and some people even say that they're 70/30. So it depends on who you talk to, but I think they're a little more geared to off-road, but they're pretty damn good on road too. They're not the best tires on the road, obviously, because they are, you know, more 50/50, but they are decent on-road and pretty damn good off-road, I have to say so myself. So I couldn't be happier with these tires. I would really suggest picking up a pair. You can go nicer tire, more expensive. These are Shinkos. They're about middle of the road. They're not super cheap, but they aren't crazy expensive either. I think I got for both of them, I think they were only like 200 bucks. Whereas you can kind of get a Michelin, but they might be like $200 a tire. And unless you're doing like one or the other, like more on-road or more off-road, one or the other, not both, then it's not worth it to me. These are probably the best 50/50s I've found so far. So let's just go over a few quick things. The wheelbase is 58 by 5 inches. The seat height is 36 by 8 inches, and all of that gives you 11.8 inches of ground clearance. The total curb weight of this bike is 317 pounds, which isn't light, but it's not too heavy either. Now, I will say I have dropped this bike, and it's not too bad to pick up by yourself, but a damn sure ain't light either. So take that, you know, however you might. All right, the last few things here before we take it for a ride is the gauge cluster, mirrors, switches, and a few other custom things I've done. So let's go over that really quickly, and that'll be about it. And then we can go over to the next clip. So like I said, we have the rack. This is where the plate goes. These are pretty good. I have not lost the plate. I did take off the baffle. I have that. We'll start the bike before we go to the next clip, and I'll show you with the baffle off and on. Rock straps with that. Gel seat cover from Mad Dog. They are really good for a cheap gel seat. I think this was like 30 bucks. This seat, I mean, I'm pushing down on the seat. It's pretty hard, but just look at this. Oh yeah, look at that gel seat. We already went over the phone holder, put the camera mount here, and then I also have here some bush guards. These actually help a lot with off-road, but they also help a lot if you drop it. I mean, these things are pretty sturdy. It ain't going anywhere. Okay, so just regular crappy stock mirrors. They're not bad, but I will probably change them at some point in time. Let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on. So as you can see, it's a digital instrument cluster. I have 7,410 miles. It is 4 o'clock my time. It is miles per hour. You can also do kilometers per hour. And it has trips. So I got trip A, and then we have trip B, and you can select either one. It's on B, now it's on A, and then you also get your total miles. So on top of that, you have a time button where you can go from clock, oops, sorry, this one, clock to, this one is a stopwatch, so it's counting up, and then this one is a countdown. So if you were trying to beat lap time, say a minute, you count down from a minute, and you can start and stop from there and adjust it from here, and selectors right there. So we also have the high beams, which turns on the light there, low beams, which I usually ride with low beams at nighttime, and high beams during the day so you can see me. Turn signal, you have left, which turns on the turn signal light, yellow is off, right, again turn on turn signal light, and yellow is off. And then we have the horn here. Let's give it a little toot toot. So it's pretty loud. This camera probably levels kind of everything out, but it's pretty goddamn loud. So we got the brake fluid here for the front brakes. You can it's got a little window there, you can tell when it's getting low. And locking gas cap, that's really nice. You also have 3 modes here. You have off, which turns everything completely off, the lights, everything. On, which turns on your instrument cluster and the lights. But you also have park, which is a pretty nice feature if you're sitting somewhere or you're off the side of the road. You don't need everything on or the bike running, but you need the lights. The lights actually are on. Sorry, I forgot. Only the back light's on here, so people oncoming here can see you. So that's a positive and negative. For the front light on, if you need the front light on, you actually have to turn it to the on position. This is all stock fender, stupid reflectors, stock light. Overall, I mean, I love this bike, so I would suggest buy one. They're on the cheap side for a road, you know, on-road, off-road, dual sport bike. Husqvarna, yes, they're nicer. KTM, yes, they're nicer, but they're also almost double in price. So for, you know, 6 grand, 7 grand, you can get a pretty decent bike you can have a lot of fun on. I know I have. So last but not least, let's start this bad boy. So we're going to turn the key on here, wait for this to zero out, and then we're going to pull this out one click today because it's already a little bit warm here. I did go for a ride. All right, let's put you down over here. Okay. And let's start it up. And we're going to push the red button here. Put it in neutral. And let's start. Push that start button with me, guys. Ready? Nope, she didn't like that. She's already popping. So we're going to take this choke off. And that's how smoothly she idles. It is pretty smooth. So this is kind of loud because it has no baffle on it. But let's go ahead and grab that baffle real quick. So here is the baffle. It's basically just, you know, thin wire mesh that's welded together, and it's put a little exhaust on it. So without the baffle, with the baffle, listen how much quieter that is. Plus, I hate the sound of it. It sounds like shit. Without the baffle, yeah. So let's rev it up a couple times, and then we're gonna move on to the acceleration, braking, cornering, and we'll have a little off-road clip in there too. And if you stay tuned till the end, you might find a little sneak peek in there. So here we go, rev it up, baby. Have enjoyed that little review there. The next couple clips is going to be 0 to 60, back down to 0, and that was a lot of fun there as well. And after that clip, we're going to have me going around some twisties to see what the bike is capable of doing through some twisties on the road, and then we are going to also have me doing a little track run, as you will. I didn't go too fast on the track run as it was, I believe, a day or two after it rained, so it was kind of a little muddy there, and we had a couple of big divots where some trucks had drove back there. So after that, if you stuck through the video this far, I hope you will stick through to the end, because we're going to have a little sneak peek at our next video, and that video is going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be exclusively off-road, riding through some sweet new areas we found, so I hope you'll enjoy that too. Thanks for everyone who stuck with it this far. We have our sneak peek coming up next. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Shit, this goes on hella far, man.